and welcome to the Stoic Poetry Podcast. I think this is episode 88. Yeah, believe it or not, there's been 87 of these so far, although this is the first in this particular format. And we're gazing right now out of the cave, which is called the Home of Faith, that is far out in the East Mojave Desert. It's a cave that appears in my book, Going Alone, and factors into the experience of that tale. It's the place where, basically, where wishful thinking resides, hidden away deep within the darkness, away from the blinding light of reason and discovery and objectivity and honesty, especially self-honesty. But that's for another podcast. That's for another thing altogether. So we're here to talk about something else. Let's see if I can make this work. There I am. Hey there, everybody. So sorry for the mic kind of blocking the face light there, but I'm testing out the new audio setting. Hopefully the audio should be good. It turned out that with Steamercast, the audio was pretty bad. So my friend Warmoth Strat, aka Mully, helped me to reconfigure my audio and video situation such that I have this. So hopefully the quality is good. Let's see, there's a Cloud S says first. Yes, indeed, you are first. Welcome, Cloud S. And Maddie, excited for this. Oh, great, Maddie. Hey, Maddie or Cloud S, could you give me a sound check? Is the audio coming through okay? I hope so. Well, this particular format for this was, I thought I would do a short episode where I want to talk about a couple of things that caught my eye recently. Maybe some recent news or something from my reading, and maybe just talk about it a little bit and see if there's anything to share. My dog is behind me squeaking his little toy. So that a little bit of extra from Ollie. So first up on the list is Osiris Rex. Hopefully that's appearing down below. Osiris, I'm very interested in space technology, space exploration, and the Osiris Rex project captured my attention recently because it came to fruition after quite a long time ago, and an expedition to send a spacecraft 20 million miles out into space to visit an asteroid called Osiris, named after a Greek god. It turns out that almost everything about this particular mission had an what would it be, aviary, or AV, what would it be, the word that denotes birds, an avian theme. So what this particular mission was to actually touch down briefly on a meteor and and here's a quiz out there for you. So if anyone can tell me what is the difference between a meteor and a meteorite, that might be interesting. And in fact, what I said was wrong when I was saying it's a meteor. It's an asteroid, right? But just throwing that quiz out there. What is the difference between a meteor and a meteorite? Try not to use Google if you can. But Osiris Rex's mission is actually to retrieve a sample of an asteroid and bring it back to Earth. So let's see if I can bring that up on the screen here. There we go. So what we're looking at right here, let me make that a little bigger, is an actual image from the Osiris Rex website. And you can see some interesting hints at video activity there. Maddie, thank you for letting me know that I sound good, that the audio is coming through good. Now, my wife's cooking dinner, so I mean to keep all of this pretty brief. So we're going to just take a quick look at the actual moment when the Osiris Rex spacecraft touched down for 6 full seconds upon the surface of the Osiris asteroid, and was able to scoop up quite a sizable chunk of asteroid material. So let's take a look at that now. I'm going to open that up. There it is. There it is. Here is the arm reaching out. It's going to adjust itself. Touchdown. Now, I think they sped this up quite a bit because apparently the arm of the spacecraft did touch the ground and was on the surface for 6 seconds. You can see that the impact shot quite a bit of debris and material. Let's make this full screen. Quite a bit of debris and material off the surface of the asteroid. And just look at that for a moment. I was kind of just stunned by the imagining the asteroid being covered in pebbles and small rocks. It looks very similar to a desert surface, don't you think? And that it would be loose like that. And to think that that material has been in that position is the word in situ for, millions, hundreds, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, perhaps billions of years. I mean, if the asteroid is a remnant of the early formation of our solar system, which the Earth is 13 billion years. No, the universe is 13.8 billion years old. The Earth is 4 point something billion years old. The asteroids are that early material that did not congeal or collect into a planetoid, or did, but was broken up into an asteroid. Imagine that you're looking at the material from which all of the other rocky planets were formed, the same material. Now, the spacecraft was able to collect more than anticipated in terms of the amount of material. In fact, so much so that it filled up its container to overflowing. And let me bring this back over here. The actual container was unable to close its lid as a result because it was so jammed with material. And material is actually escaping away. So the problem is that I think it takes like over 10 minutes for the signal to pass between Earth and the Osiris Rex spacecraft. So there's no way that the controllers here on Earth can operate the spacecraft. They have to simply program it and let the spacecraft work in a mostly autonomous fashion. So what they've done is they've come up with a programming scheme by which the remote arm that you see in the picture there will move itself back to deposit its payload into an internal container sometime tomorrow. So they're doing it very slowly so that very little material will escape. But congratulations to NASA for the successful Osiris Rex project. Now, just to return, we're not quite done, right? Only halfway there. It's like a successful swim out into the ocean as far as I can. You still have to swim back. So now the spacecraft has to get back. But compared with the mission of touching and retrieving material off of a moving asteroid 20 or 200 million miles from Earth, the fact of getting back should be hopefully relatively simple. Now, just when you thought that NASA didn't have anything up its sleeve, especially with the recent successes of companies like SpaceX and Blue Origins and their spacecraft, images like this make you realize that NASA and the efforts of the space agency over many decades, and also the private corporations that work with them, have created quite a feat. I mean, just add to that the fact of how many spacecraft are currently orbiting or crawling across the various planets in our solar system. So congratulations to that. Let's move on to the next topic. Scottish crofting farming culture and the fug of nothing. No, I did not just cuss. So let's go ahead and set aside. Now, I wonder if I can do this. Let's see if this will work. Here, I want to move there. Hey, it worked. Good. Let me get rid of that close thing. I'm trying to use Google Earth as well. So the fug of farming culture. Well, let me bring my screen back. So in particular, this topic comes from a recent book I finished called Sea Room by Adam Nicholson. This is a book about a man, a Scottish man, Scottish lord. Actually, he's a Scottish lord. Is he Scottish or English? But he's a man of the UK. He's actually a lord, and his father bought these 3 islands called the Shants. I think I'm saying it correctly. Up in the off the northwest coast of Scotland, famous for puffin birds and sheep grazing and a little else, but a great place to be alone. And he wrote this book about the history of it. But I read it because I wanted to get the impression of Mr. Nicholson's experience of spending so much time alone on this island, which he did as a young man. His father gave him the island at the age of 18, and he's recently gave the island to his son, upon his son's 18th birthday. Now, after I finished reading the book, I did write an email to Mr. Nicholson, and he did respond. So it was really nice to actually speak with him. But in the book, he talks about the remnants of the farming culture that was on the island. It's about 6 miles off of the coast of Scotland, the main coast of Scotland. And there were farmers that have lived out there for centuries in various states of success. And anyway, I want to show you the islands, and I want to show you something upon it that he talked about that I found visible evidence of, that I found very interesting. So let's switch back now to Google Earth. There we are. And let's go ahead and get rid of this fog of nothing thing. So here we are on Google Earth. Let me go ahead and spin the globe, bring us around to Scotland. Let me right the globe. There we go. Did I get it quite right? And there is the UK right there. Now, if I recall right, hopefully I won't have to search for it. If I recall right, there's the Shants right there. I think these are the Shants. Let's see. Am I right? Yes, these are them. Now, so these are the Shant Islands, and you can kind of get an idea of where they are relative to, when I said mainland before, excuse me, I didn't quite mean that right. The mainland is just a bigger island, the island of Lewis. Here is the island, here's Scotland proper. I think it's about 6 miles. Now, one thing that's interesting I've discovered in Google Earth is that if you don't have a good view in the timeline right there, that's pretty crappy, right? You get in close, it's like a blinding sunlight. You can't see anything. If that happens to you, just bring out the old Google time machine, which is right, where is it? Here it is, the Wayback Machine. And then use this slider over here to move back a little bit, and you'll get a better view. See, in this case, there's not a lot of options. There's 12/30/2005, so we've gone back 15 years. 4/1/2013, so the last photo was 7 years ago. Let's see if we can get anything, nothing in between. So we have to go all the way back 15 years for a good satellite photo. So let's scroll back out, and now it'll be clear. Now you can see the Shants a little better. Here we go. You see how crappy that was? And then come back over here. We're in better shape. No, there's 2003. Oh, there we go. Look, I'm getting some better shots here. That's not bad right there. I think I'll stick with this one. That's pretty good. So, Cinecyclist says, let's take a look at the comment. I have ancestry from the Outer Hebrides, Scotland. No kidding. Wow. My ancestors are from Scotland as well, from Edinburgh. At least that's where my Scottish grandmother told me. But who knows where they came from, actually before that. So here's the Shants. And this is what his grandfather bought for about the price of a house, I think that was in the 50s or the 60s. It's 3 islands. There's a stretch of sand, a spit of sand that goes across right here. And then over here I think this is the St. Mary's Island or something like that. I can't remember the names. They've got, of course, Scottish names, which I can't quite remember. This is interesting over here. These little bits right here are famous for shipwrecks, for taking down ships. Over here, between here and here, this is called the Channel of the Blue Men. The idea is that there are the blue men. There's very dangerous tides and currents there, and blue men will follow your ship and climb on board and take you down into the sea. So, of course, the area is rife with legend. So anyway, what I wanted to show you was, first of all, when Mr. Nicholson would come to the island, he did have his own little sailboat when he was a young man, and he would sail from the area here across. It was quite an adventure. He would park his little sailboat, come in, and I think he would park it here. He would come across, come in through this channel here, and then park it on the sand right around here. And you can see, here's his house. You can actually see his house. That's the house that it's been there for a long time. I think, Cinecyclist, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think that the term for these is a dothy. A dothy is a small, like a shed that anybody's welcome to use in the middle of nowhere. And so this is the Dothy, and you can, if you want to, you can visit this island. You're welcome to. Just write to Mr. Nichols, and he will arrange to get the key to you, and you can go out and spend. You can sleep in this Dothy if you like. What you can see around here are the remnants of past farmhouses, right? These buildings here are up here, and there's a few elsewhere as well, including an old monastery up at the top. But the thing that will catch your eyes, I'll show you here. Here's some more right here. Look at these. Here's some more ancient structures from the farmers that used to live here. What a life they had. You can see there's more on outline of one right there as well. Isn't that fascinating? But are you starting to see some of these lines? Look at these. Here they go. Here's some lines right there, right? Okay, there's more on the island. In fact, elsewhere on the island, they practically cover the whole thing. Here's more of them there. See all the lines? Now you'll notice that all the lines appear on the rather more arable side of the land. Probably not much here. This is just one big giant rock. But I think over here on this one, this is the one. There we go. The island of Mary, I think it's called. Now look at that. Doesn't it look like it's going into the sea? Or that's just a shadow, I guess. But look at that. It's covered with these lines. Spin around. It's fun on Google Earth. You can do a nice spin if you like. Look at those. That's a good place to look at it right there. That's probably the best shot we're going to see. Now, if you go elsewhere in Scotland, Scottish Highlands and elsewhere, and I've Google Earth, I've flown all around. I haven't found too much, but mostly up here in the higher areas, you will find these all over the place. And what they are was an artifact of, putting back up on the screen here, of the farm culture of Scotland called crofting. These aren't them themselves. These are not crofting. Crofting was a kind of like a, sharecropper type of a thing, where the tenants on the land would kind of take possession of the land and give the land owner a certain share. Not a unique idea. That's happened all around the world for a very long period of time. But what is unique is these lines. Now, if you imagine if you had a farmer, a landowner that owned this entire island, in fact, what he would do is he would have someone that looked over the island. And there was a term for that, but I forgot what it is. And that owner would take on the name of the island. So if this was the Shants, it would be Mr. Shant, and he would be kind of like the caretaker of the island. But then there would be tenants that lived on the island, serfs, if you like, or not serfs. Serf is a very particular word for Russia, right? I don't know if it's common, particular to Russia, but it's almost like a slave in a way. I'm sure someone will correct me on that. But the people that were living there were, desperately poor, living practically on the land. They would have these little huts here and there, and they would farm the land. So, but now they enter a very interesting bit of almost egalitarian culture or idea into that. Now, you imagine that across this island, most of the land is not, to use that word again, arable, right? Like, who cares? Who wants this land up here? It's just a bunch of rocks. There's probably not much you can do with it at all. Versus this bit down here we were just looking at, which is quite good. Clearly, you can almost tell by that it must be more soily. Plus, there's a place you can land your boat, maybe. So, how do you divide it up? How do you who gets what, right? Who gets to use the different types? Well, the way they came up with this was this system. They divided the land into these long strips, and the strips would then be allocated out to the inhabitants of the island. I think they had a system by which they kind of randomized it or divvied it up. So this year, this particular long strip right here might belong to the I can't think of a good Scottish name. Oh, the Bell family. I think Bell's a Scottish name. The Bell family, and this one down here might belong to the McGregor family, or be the possession of the McGregor family. And likewise, and you can see, and that way they would work that particular stretch, and then next year they would change up that order so that somebody else had it. Anyway, I read about that in Mr. Nichols' book, The Sea Room. And then when I went to the island to have a look at it, I found those lines, and it brought it really home to me. I was like, wow, that's really neat, to actually read about it and then see it. So isn't that something? So that was my first topic, Scottish crofting, and the fug of nothing. almost sounds like I said a bad word. The Fug of Nothing. This book, again, the reason that I read it was I was interested in particularly in Mr. Nichols' encounter or life living alone on the island. But in particular, I was curious about if he had any encounters with what I call the great indifference. So and there is Mr. Nichols right there. You can see a nice picture of him. Handsome guy. And he did. There's a couple elements in here. I highlighted them in yellow where he did. And I like it here at the end. The very last line in the book, I'll read it to you, because he talks about why he would go to such a place. He says, but just imagine if it were death, if all this glory were over, if the only signs of life were in fact signs of death, the bird skulls, the abandoned colonies, the fug of nothing. And I realized at that moment he was talking about being alone on the island and the contrast between his family and his job. You remember, he's a British lord. Is that a job? his role, and the experience of coming out to a place like this, especially since it's completely uninhabited now, and experiencing that fug of nothing. And if you're wondering what a fug is, it's basically that atmosphere of that's smoky, if you like, in a tavern, and that smoky atmosphere all around. That's the fug of nothing. All right, and let's go on now to the last topic I wanted to cover tonight, which is an Epictetus quote. So I thought it would be neat, since Stoic poetry, of course, refers to, you got to have, if you're going to do Stoic poetry, you got to have a little Stoic a quote from the Stoics. And I chose for tonight a quote from, no, not Heraclitus. Where did it go? Epictetus. And Epictetus is one of my favorite Stoics. He was let me bring up the screen here, get rid of Google Earth. Okay, Epictetus was I hope I'm not getting him mixed up. He was the crippled ex-slave, right? Hold on, let's find out. I'm having one of these senior modes. Epictetus. Yeah, he is. There's a crippled ex-slave. Here's a great photo of him. Oh, I'm not showing you guys. Here you go. There's a great photo of Epictetus right there, on his crutch, writing down his thoughts. So Epictetus was a Roman slave who, a lot of times in the Rome, you had slaves. A wealthy man would have slaves. You could use them for doing manual labor, for serving things, and also for entertainment. And one of the things they had some slaves do was think. And Epictetus was one such slave who basically could provide interesting, provocative a commentary to his master. At least that was one speculation. He eventually worked hard enough to free himself, although he was crippled all of his life. And I think he was crippled from being beaten. I think that's from his master beating him. And he wrote a lot. And here's this is a very nice image of him writing with his crutch draped over his shoulder. I'm going to read to you a quote from Epictetus. Here you go. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Now, what an interesting idea. I may wonder why would foolish and stupid? And I think that the reason is that when you're improving, you're going to be making mistakes, and you're also going to be pushing the envelope of convention, and others are going to look at you with disdain and with slightly askance for challenging the status quo. Marcus Aurelius, the Emperor Marcus Aurelius, in Meditations, also talks quite a bit about this. He warns of gaining a supercilious look, that. But he does say that in order, and also here, hold on. Ralph Waldo Emerson in Self-Reliance goes on and on about the same idea. I'm pretty sure that the 19th century transcendentalists of New England, Emerson and Thoreau and the like, gained a lot of their ideas from the earlier Stoic philosophers, even though they don't actually reference them very often. But I like that one. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. A nice little quote from the Stoic thinker Epictetus. And with that, let's see if there's any comments, and I'm going to sign off, I think. And Tolerance says, I don't think I followed any channel as long as I have yours. Must have been about 10 years now. Just want to say thank you. Now I will mentally prepare myself for going to bed because 3 a.m. That's wonderful. And Toliance, well, thank you. I really appreciate you sticking with me so long. That means a lot. Thanks. JK, do you think you could position the mic or the camera slightly differently so your face isn't covered? That's a great challenge. Now, how does the quality? It's going to get less. See, it's getting less. Maybe like that. I haven't quite figured that out because I've got the camera. I guess the answer is no. What I'll have to do, thank you, JK, for the suggestion. What I'll have to do is I'll have to find a way to move the camera up higher. So, and I can do that. It's just a slight bit of a challenge. Yeah, this is kind of awful. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining me for this a little bit of a time. Let's go back to. By the way, I chose the cover for this to be the cave again. The cave, the home of faith out in the desert. I wonder if anybody could ever possibly find this place. Interesting. I'll give you a hint. If you read my book, Going Alone, the very end of the chapter, the anxiety hike, ends on top of that mountain. The anxiety hike chapter actually is a very poorly and deliberately so routed guide into the desert, into the deep water wilderness. And it ends right there. The watcher, or not the watcher, the miner is right over here. So if you can find them, if you can find the point in my book where the story of the anxiety hike ends, and you look backwards or you look back across the great indifference, you're staring straight at the home of faith, which is right here, and you'll cross the miner along the way, and we'll make that go away. All right. 28 minutes. How did time fly? So time for my wife's making dinner. Time for me to say goodbye to all of you. I'm glad that the quality is good, and we'll do this again. Take care, everybody. Remember, be safe, but not too safe. And good night.